Hey, good evening, Leon. I don't know if I would call it a mass exodus. I want to take you to Fulton Street right now, and if I'll have our cameraman go behind me, you can see fires off in the distance. This is Fulton Street, right across from the Van Andel Arena. We were at that line right there at Fulton and Ionia, where I myself was tear gassed along with much of the crowd. If you look just beyond the Buffalo Wild Wings building, you can see a fire spouting out from the back of that building right there. Take a look at that right there, right behind the Buffalo Wild Wings. This is on Fulton Street, right downtown. That fire now coming out of a story building right off of Fulton Street. Take a look at that right here. And if you look off and keep the camera on that fire, you can see someone above the building right in front of that fire. The police are still holding the line here on Fulton Street, right across the street from the Van Andel Arena, but I want you to see farther down Fulton here, you can see crowds are still coming. Cars are now going through an area where there's a lot of people gathered here. Still continue to see Michigan scene. They haven't shot off any tear gas since I got up to this parking garage here. Check that fire right there. You can see that there's people on the roof right near that fire now spouting out from the side of that building.
Other crew who is out there and watching some of the police movements that we can watch from our vantage point here on Fulton Street. Justin, what's changed?
Well, Leon, in the last couple minutes here, we've seen a group of mounted police on bicycles going east down Fulton. Where exactly they went, I wasn't able to see. I believe they went down towards Division and veered off. We're seeing a lot of smoke actually still now coming from the north side of town, blowing south. From our vantage point here, we're just across from the Van Andel Arena in a parking garage, so we can get this this vantage point for you. We're not exactly sure where that smoke is coming from, but if you continue to look down east, down Fulton Street, where the police have continued to push those bands of protesters back east down Fulton, we've seen flashbangs, we've seen more tear gas be deployed. We've even seen people continue to throw things at police officers. This is all within the last 5 minutes. When we were talking with Jacqueline here, those flashbangs were going off and the tear gas was being dispersed just farther east down Division. Now, police have continued to, seems like their base of operations is here at the intersection of Ionia and Fulton Street. They're the police cars with the Michigan State Police, with Grand Rapids Police, Kent County Sheriff's Police. In some spots, their vehicles are 3 deep, and they are continuing to kind of assess where they need to be. And we're still just hearing, and again, we're up about 5 stories, maybe 6 in this parking garage, and you can just hear echoes of loud banging, loud crashing throughout the city as the evening has progressed. But I want to say, Leon, now where we're looking right now, there are more police officers than protests. There were bands pretty close to where we were. That's not the case right now. And I want to say, when we were coming up to this parking garage to get this vantage point, there were hundreds of protesters blocking off Fulton Street. The police didn't have a good hold of a barricade to stop them. That's when our crew got tear gassed on our way up here. And in the last hour and a half that we've been with you, they really have gotten a good grasp of the situation here. It appears that's at least at Fulton Street. And you can continue to see police officers in their riot gear. And I want to highlight this again, Leon. I've seen police officers get spit on. I've seen objects get thrown at them. I've seen a lot of intimidation towards the police officers, and for the most part, they really, oh, there's fireworks now going off above us. They really seem to remain unfazed, doing what they can, obviously, by dispersing that tear gas and those flashbangs. But you can see there's a fireworks display now going off above Fulton Street, right downtown Grand Rapids. That is obviously not being put on by the police. But you can see that now there's quite a few of them now going off above us right here, farther east down Fulton Street. Thing that's important to note here too, these streets have been barricaded and closed off. We're continuing to see cars just weave their way through police and weave in and out of protesters, in and out of traffic, going very fast, making difficult maneuvers for anyone. But it is amazing from this vantage point. We haven't seen any arrests. We haven't seen anyone that I can say, other than the tear gas, any injuries or anything like that, thankfully. We did see those large flames break out on Commerce Avenue right off of Fulton, and fire crews did deal with that. The smoke that we were talking about earlier, farther to the north of Fulton, has died down. It has been periodically blowing across the street, but from this vantage point with the new construction downtown, we haven't been able to see exactly where that smoke was coming from. So we're going to continue to monitor the situation here from this parking garage, as police do appear to, for the most part right now, have a handle on the protesters. As we've seen, as I say, Leanne, we've seen hundreds of protesters dispersed. The images you're seeing right now, live images of Fulton Street, are much, it might look chaotic, but is much calmer than it was as little as an hour and a half ago, which is certainly good news. These protesters so displeased with everything that's happening in the country right now, and you can see that displeasure, that anger really highlighted throughout the streets of downtown Grand Rapids tonight, and police doing their best to keep the peace, to keep things under control here, as we've seen fires, we've seen breaking into buildings, looting, and it does seem now, Leon, that things are a little more under control, and hopefully that continues to be the trend as the night continues. As soon as night fell, we really saw these protesters, these demonstrations go from a peaceful demonstration to a raucous riot in some situations, where we were getting tear gas, we were seeing those flashbangs, and a lot of that intimidation from the crowd into the police. So again, things have really calmed down, and we hope that that continues throughout the night.
Justin Kollar reporting live for us with a bird's eye view. We want to go now to Justin Kollar, who is live in that very area right now. Justin.
Leon, it seems like just a couple, maybe 30 minutes ago, I was telling you that things had calmed down. It's certainly not the case now. We're on Monroe Center, and you can see fires still downtown here as people continue to loot. And I said this on a Facebook Live just a couple minutes ago. It seems as though every single building downtown, every single business has been broken into. We've seen ATMs smashed into. This is a family and pediatric eye care that's been smashed into. We were walking down a dark alley, the Ellis parking area, where 3 of those vehicles were on fire. Those have since been put out, but police officers, I have to assume they didn't know that we were with the media, were pointing their weapons right at us. They did not fire. I spoke to them, and I was like, we're getting out of here, we're getting out of here, before anything was able to happen. But then tear gas was launched right above my photographer's head and my own. It could have only missed us by a foot, this tear gas that was launched right at us. People are still making their presence felt downtown, and you can hear glass shattering near this fire, as we're just sticking close to my photographer here downtown, because this is still a raucous scene. People are getting a little too comfortable getting close next to us, as people just are throwing stuff at police officers who are still trying to hold some sort of line here in front of the Kilwins, right downtown across the street from Rosa Parks Circle is where we're at. But yeah, you can see, I said this again, but I can't reiterate it enough. People are flocking to downtown. It seems like there's more and more people coming downtown every couple minutes. But all of these buildings have been shattered into, and you can see people coming up to us right now. But
talk to the mic.
we're not on, yeah, no. And the glass in most of these buildings has been shattered, and graffiti painted on so many of the buildings. It's going to be incredible to see throughout the morning hours and into the next day, when things do start to calm down, Leon. When things do start to calm down, how they're going to be able to clean this up, as people are just continuing to try to break into anything they can. And I can see, actually, it looks as though people have broken into our downtown studio. Take a look at that. People have broken into our downtown studio. The glass is shattered here. Yep, there you go. As they're using the gates to shatter their way into the downtown studio at Rosa Parks Circle, our downtown studio here. We're going to continue to try to get to a safer location, as people are getting more and more unruly down here, Leon. We were in a parking garage above everything when it had appeared hours ago that this scene was taken care of, but that is certainly not the case right now. As you can see, more and more people flocking to the downtown area, just now getting into, it looks like getting into a Grand Rapids police cruiser. But that I'm not sure if that's the case. It's just pandemonium down here, and I hate to say that, but that's really, I can't describe it in any other word than absolute chaos. Seriously. And it's a shame because this started off as such a peaceful demonstration, and it quickly turned into something that is so clearly not. As police are, it appears they're just scrambling as they're trying to get a hold on things, what's going on down here. So we're going to continue to take a closer look at things and hopefully get to a more distant location where we can get a better vantage point for you guys. This is Justin Kollar reporting live downtown Grand Rapids, News 8.
Justin, thank you. Please get to a safe place there. We've got all sorts of cameras in that vicinity. And Justin Kollar has been out there for a good chunk of this evening. Justin, where are you now and what are you seeing?
Leon, we're staying in close proximity with our crew here. You can't see me on camera because we're doing this to try to dissuade crowds from getting close to us. So we're kind of not actively being on air in front of the camera as you would typically see. But after these rioters broke into our downtown studio, they continued to just use those barricades to smash their way into it, as we've seen with so many buildings downtown. And that went on for probably about 10 minutes before now you see Grand Rapids police here. As soon as they arrived, people were throwing chairs, throwing water bottles, looked like beer cans at their cruisers, and police largely stayed in their cruisers in their full riot gear. And you can see they're just trying to assess the situation. There's some of them to our left that are now starting to like move out, but here you can see they're starting to throw something. But yeah, most of this protest is now headed right downtown Rosa Parks Circle. And the cruisers are now starting to go right into Rosa Parks Circle. You can see one of those cruisers is doing so, Leon. But yeah, we are staying in our group to be as safe as possible. As people have approached us, people are getting more and more bold as the night continues, as everyone is wearing masks because we're in the middle of this pandemic. I have to imagine people are doing things that they would not normally do because you can't see their face. So people are it's a raucous scene here, Leon. People are just throwing stuff at the police officers, breaking into every storefront, every building downtown Grand Rapids. The cleanup effort tomorrow and throughout the next few days is going to be, it will be crazy. Someone just said behind me, it will be. We're going to continue to follow this all throughout the evening as Grand Rapids Police now are starting to try to tame this situation. People are just like pulling trees out of the ground and plants and things. They're just trying to move people out of Rosa Parks Circle because that's where the focal point of this protest started on Fulton, where we were seeing it hours ago, and it quickly moved to where it is now. And you can see Grand Rapids Police just trying to do their best to move people out of here where they've gathered, and people are just running around, continuing to. You can see a gentleman here pulling one of the signs out of our downtown studio. I'm not sure if he's a police officer or not. But there's a lot to take in. There's a lot to take in, Leon, as people are now charging at the Grand Rapids police vehicles with barricades in their hands. Going right at them. Throwing whatever they can grab as people are pushing back at that barricade that they just ran at police with. I'm just trying to gather the words to say here, Leon, honestly. People are throwing things back and forth over this barricade right downtown Rosa Parks Circle. As now police have left this scene and people are starting to come closer to us, getting things to throw at this gentleman right here. In the helmet, I have to wonder about his safety. It looks like people are starting to gather around there. Yeah, things are escalating down here. We're going to continue to kind of get away from this scene and try to get to a safer position. But Grand Rapids police are on standby. They're right here, right to the left of us, only maybe 6 or 7 feet away from us. Here comes crews running down the street now with their guns drawn here. But I have to imagine these are their pellet rifles. Yep, here comes some tear gas here too. They're beginning to throw and shoot that tear gas, shoot those other projectiles. You can see some of the tear gas just being thrown into these crowds. This is where all of these protesters, these rioters, have gathered right down here, and you can see that those flashbangs are being used effectively. People have scattered in a quick hurry here. As things, and if you've been watching this, you can see things were quickly escalating at our location as police just continue to throw flashbangs and tear gas into these unruly crowds. And that couldn't have happened a moment too soon. If you were watching this live broadcast, you could see things right here were escalating quickly. And thankfully, I'm not sure if these are state police or Grand Rapids police or who these law enforcement officials are, but they got here at a good moment. And now they're just kind of surveying the situation, kind of seeing if their effort had worked to clear out these crowds. And you can just see, if you take a look over to the left, you can just see this. Oh, there's a SWAT vehicle. You can just see the smoke just pouring out of the downtown streets. That's the Ottawa County Sheriff, actually. So, I mean, there are multiple crews at this scene from all over West Michigan now with Ottawa County. That's the first Ottawa County vehicle I've seen.
Hey, you guys,
as people just continue to do this.
On what's going on with your building there?
And you can see the smoke just pouring through the downtown streets here as now police are just walking through, trying to clear out any of the rest of these rioters through these streets. Police are trying to clear some of the debris out of the road so they can even drive their vehicles. You can see pots overturned, benches in the street, just garbage really everywhere, and a lot of merchandise from some of these stores too, unfortunately, has just been scattered across the streets here.
A city that was the heart of peaceful, silent protests until all this unfolded. Justin Kollar is in position to show us some more of the damage here.
Yeah, so Leanne, we're things that have calmed down here more, but I want to do a little walk and talk and show you some of the damage here as we cross Monroe Center. We've been mentioning all throughout this morning's newscast how you can't really escape the damage. I mean, you can see pots and urns of these plants just completely overtipped, shattered. But more importantly, look at these small businesses. This restaurant, Cinco de Mayo, right downtown across from our downtown studio, the glass in these pots, these terracotta planters shattered, broken into this window. It doesn't appear that people made any rush into this building, but certainly the storefront is damaged badly. And if we go farther down here, this is a business that people did get into and did loot. It looks like quite significantly, actually. This is a Superior Watch Repair. These store owners and employees are going to come to work in a much different situation. You can see literally right through here, there's an urn that I presume was used to smash their way into this building right there. And there's glasses and greeting cards and all sorts of things smashed. And if you look further into this building, you can see those display cases just completely broken into, and whatever was in there is no longer. And let's take another walk here farther down the street. There was this building looks like they tried to get into, but double pane glass deterred some of the people. And again, right here, this is the post office right downtown Grand Rapids. People broke into, and kind of a sad image right there with the American flag amid all of this broken glass inside the post office, where people just smashed their way into here, just trying to grab anything they could. And that's why we've seen so many people just grabbing random things and leaving with them. you can see some people being good Samaritans and picking up trash. That's the first I've seen of this evening, but this gentleman is here just picking up some trash, trying to do his part to make a difference. You can see the thumbs up from the police officer here. It's certainly appreciated, I'm sure. But some of these businesses are more hardly affected than others. But let's talk to this young man. Excuse me, sir. Do you want to talk real quick about what you're doing here?
Sure.
Okay.
Fine.
What's your name?
My name's Alex.
Alex. I mean, we've seen so many people. Where you are on live television, we've seen so many people destroying things and causing so much panic downtown. That police officer just gave you a thumbs up. Why are you picking up trash right now?
I want to be religious on live TV. Jesus. Oh, can I do that?
Oh, yeah.
I'll do it. Jesus is our restoration, and I see a lot of destruction around here right now, and I just want to bring some restoration this hard time. A lot of people have a lot of emotions right now, and I want to empathize with that, but I also want to have a positive note on what's going on here.
Alex, right?
Yeah.
Do you live downtown, or did you come here, to see what was going on? It's certainly a historic event.
I live right by John Ball Zoo. I've been here I only lived here for about a year, but I go to college at Grand Valley.
Okay. Certainly, a great effort. Hopefully other people can see what you're doing and make a difference. Like I say, certainly that police officer did. I'm sure that helped make his evening a little bit better, just seeing that.
Tomorrow at Rosa Park Circle at noon, there's going to be a whole cleanup here. I think it's on Facebook right now, so definitely have your viewers check that out.
How can they find that? Do you know what that Facebook group is called? I know there's so many things going on right now, but that would be certainly a good way to help the city out.
I would just say look up Grand Rapids cleanup, and it'll be a huge event. It's just happening here at noon tomorrow, so just bring some cleaning supplies, whatever you can, gloves, masks, bags, anything you can find.
Well, thank you so much for what you're doing. We really do appreciate that. So we're going to continue to walk down here. So certainly always silver linings to be found in even amid the most terrible situations, as we just saw with that young man Alex, just trying to do his part to pick up some trash throughout downtown Grand Rapids. And we do see that these crews are on the move, heading back east up Monroe Center away from Rosa Park Circle, which is hard to believe given what you were seeing probably about 20 minutes ago at this same location. These crews now heading to another location. Leanne, I don't think you could have put it any better. This has become a sort of whack-a-mole, where police crews will combat a situation and they'll take it out and disperse the crowd, and then next thing you know, they'll pop up somewhere else. So let's continue to walk down here. This is the scene of where those car fires were. People are now gathered around those vehicles, it appears. Those were put out, I would guess, maybe an hour ago. Those fires were finally put out. But you can see, if you look to your left, there's some foul language here. But this is all graffiti that has been sprayed on these downtown buildings. And this looks to be where some of the protesters, the rioters, have migrated to. There seems to be a large crowd here of about 50 or so, I'd say, gathering around where these burned out vehicles. One of them, I believe, was a Walker or Wyoming police cruiser. You can see the rally bar on the Wyoming police cruiser right here in front of us. And yeah, you can see the damage from that. But now we are walking to where a lot of these the crowds have migrated to, as people are just looting out of these burned out vehicles. And I'm not sure what that was. But you can't imagine that there'd be anything of any value in here, as people are just these vehicles are still smoldering, actually, Leon. But you can see people just rifling through here, pulling anything out that they can find. And we're just staying close with our crews here, because there's people just walking about everywhere. But just take a look at this. People just pulling anything they can find out of here, trying to who knows what they're trying to grab out of these vehicles that are still smoldering right downtown Grand Rapids. I'm not sure exactly which road we're on, but we're right next to the Sundance restaurant. And now, if you look down west of this road, you can see police now coming this way. So I'm assuming they're trying to disperse this crowd. As I say, there's probably 100 people gathered right here who may have come from the Rosa Parks crowd. There's certainly no shortage of people looting in this location. And you can see, I mean, in certain parts of this, the Sundance restaurant's been broken into as well. The glass is all broken there. Piece of a rifle or a shotgun on the ground here. To get a look at that right here, over here. You can see,
unfortunately, you guys got
part of a
laying right on the ground.
Shotgun on the ground here, right there. As that gentleman put that back on the ground there, I have to assume that came out of one of these vehicles. This is another police vehicle here. These people are just grabbing things. This is clearly a police vehicle as well. It's unmarkable. There's no way you could tell whose jurisdiction this belongs to, but this is clearly a police vehicle as well. You can see the sirens on top too. And take a look here. Police are shouting something. It's hard to understand exactly what they're saying. I'll be silent for a moment to see if we can understand what they're saying. Well, they might have turned their megaphone off, but people were jumping on the top of these vehicles. They are now off. But it actually looks like 3 of these vehicles were police vehicles. So we're gonna, as this scene continues to kind of unfold, we're gonna move back over this way, closer to where the police are at, before things get a little unruly here as well. We're gonna move back down this side of the street. Police are now just trying to get a grasp on this scene as we've moved farther north, downtown Grand Rapids, away from Rosa Parks Circle. Police are just starting to work with these rioters wherever they go. But the unfortunate thing, Leon, is people are not listening to the police and to so many of our guests that we've had on throughout the last few hours, telling people to go home, to not come down here. There's people, so many people driving downtown Grand Rapids who just want to see this happen, but it's just not safe. It's just not safe for people to be down here right now. But they're just continuing to show up with their phones out, just trying to capture this moment when police and anyone who would tell you would say that they should not be here and they should not be doing this. So we are just now walking back up the street as things have cleared out a little bit here, where the police officers are in their vehicles. And you can see this car also was some sort of police vehicle here. Impossible to tell whose vehicle this was, as the fire has damaged it so severely. And there's a stop sign through the front of this, through the windshield of this police cruiser. A mannequin actually in front of it too, from another downtown business. A mannequin just thrown on the engine block of this police cruiser downtown Grand Rapids. And you can see now these crews are now turning right here, presumably to whack another mall, Leon. As they continue, the protesters just move from one spot to the next, to the next, to the next, without going home. They want to get their point across this evening. Hey, Leon, yeah, we mentioned earlier that the police crews had been blocking a lot of Monroe Center. They actually moved their barricade up further. We're actually on Monroe Center in Ionia. We did point out that snowplow earlier in the broadcast, and now we've moved further up Monroe Center. This is actually the furthest we've been able to go all evening, and you can see some crews now rushing down Ionia. It appears to be Grand Rapids Police and a fire truck, maybe 2 fire trucks headed up by another 2 Grand Rapids Police Department vehicles. Where exactly they're heading, we're not quite sure, but there is an active, well, it's smoldering now. There are turned over dumpsters with fires that have been spread all throughout the city, and you can see that's certainly the case right here. This is still smoldering. These dumpsters were tipped over in the middle of the street. This is Ionia, right downtown, and it's just trash and, yeah, flames still as parts of the city just continue to burn. This is Ionia Street again. Cars are still driving by, but you can see police up ahead trying to do their best to stop traffic, to block this portion of the road. And you can see a lot of the spray paint and damage on this First Community Bank right down here. marked with the name of George Floyd. You know, obviously a couple hundred miles away from us, which has sparked so much of this outrage. But we're gonna walk down the street here closer to where those fire trucks were heading. I can see in the building up to our right smoke alarms going off, flashing in the upper stories of that building. So we don't know if there's an active fire yet. We're heading down the street, heading down Ionia towards that building, because you can see that's where the fire trucks were heading. So we're gonna keep walking down here, and you can see some of the other rioters are doing the same, other protesters I should say, walking down the street too, as a SWAT vehicle heads our way further up Ionia. This is actually the one that I mentioned earlier with the obscenity spray paint on the back of it. So as we get closer to this, the CWD building downtown on Ionia, you can starting to see some of the reflection of the fire truck's lights in the windows as the lights in the building continue to flash, signifying that there is at least smoke alarms going off. So let's get a closer look here as we round this corner. I can see 2 of those fire trucks with a lot of broken glass in front of the Michigan First Credit Union here. I don't see any smoke, I don't see any fire. I almost walked through this barricade here. But it does appear that this building was broken into. We don't know if it's been looted or not, but people are still kind of dispersing. At this moment, Leon, I would say this is the fewest amount of people other than police officers that I've seen all night long. So if people are actually starting to go home or not, we really don't know. But you can see, if you take a look at this here, some of these vehicles now responding to this scene where people may have broken into this building. There might be something more going on. We don't know at this time because we haven't had an opportunity to talk to anyone to see exactly what the full extent of the damage is, if there is a fire here. This is honestly the first time I can say all night, the first or second really, where we've seen crews be able to respond to an active scene. So much of downtown has been blocked by protesters, by other things. So take a look at this building here and you can see the damage for yourself. And then you can hear the alarms going off inside where people had used some sort of object to smash their way into this building. And you can see the, it might be business owners or someone at the door there, maybe speaking with police. It's kind of hard to see from this angle, but there's so much damage in this building, so much damage at this window here, this double pane glass that someone smashed through. If you take a look even further up the street down Ionia, you can see a new barricade formed by the Grand Rapids Police and now Michigan State Police here as well, as we're getting closer to actually our original location where we started off this evening down Fulton. And this is where a lot of the police presence has been headquartered. So you can see a lot of them are, hey, good morning. You can see a lot of these crews are still staging here, working to maybe develop a plan, Leon, to stage their crews to get to other parts of the city. We've really made the rounds so far this evening and into the morning hours, where you'll see crews in one part of town, then they'll move to another, as they're just working to put out these small fires like these dumpsters, and also working to tame some of these protesters and rioters who are just continuing to refusing to go home, refusing to calm down. And I mean, it was just moments ago that we saw another skirmish pop up between the rioters and police as they were running down the street. The police then throwing flashbangs, throwing those tear gas canisters into the crowds, and then pulling out it was either a paintball gun or a gun that fires those rubber shells into the crowd. And you could hear the people screaming as they were hitting them, but it worked. I mean, it did work to disperse that crowd as they continued to run down Ionia. That's where we are right now, Ionia, as it runs into Fulton, as they would have been met by this barricade. So whether or not any arrests happened here, we weren't here, so it's hard to say, but we're going to have to continue to find that out as the morning continues. It does seem, though, Leon, It does seem, though, at least at this point where we are at, again, there are, right now, this is the first time I've been able to say all evening, all morning long, where I can't see any protesters, any rioters. And if I look 360 degrees, I can't see any protesters or rioters. And that's the first time I've been able to say that. There are certainly, in this part of town, police do seem to have a handle on the situation. Whether or not that could be the case farther north, I have no idea. But we're going to continue to walk over that way, and we'll check things out, and we'll be sure to let you know, Leon.
Justin Kollar, one of our newer reporters on our team. I want to commend you for the work you've done tonight. You've experienced things that some reporters go an entire career without seeing or experiencing, being subject to tear
I was your
gas
intern, Leon, so.
And things like that. I wasn't going to bring that up. But I want to commend your efforts there. I'm curious from your vantage point, what is the image that sticks with you about what you've seen tonight?
Well, you know, Leanne, when we started off talking with you this evening, we were perched up in the parking garage, and I would say the scene from that was the initial, the first barricade that I saw, where there were hundreds of protesters, hundreds of rioters coming face to face with those police, and the just absolute restraint that they were exhibiting, being spit on. I saw them being spit on, things thrown at them point blank, and the police still just seemed emotionless. Things really didn't get out of hand from police until well into the morning hours. I think the image that sticks with me most, though, Leon, happened maybe about an hour ago when we first saw the Ottawa County SWAT vehicle here, and the moment that it stopped, as it was blocked off by a woman with her hands in the air, someone spray painted that obscenity on the back, and it was just one of those moments I think will stick with me for the rest of my life. There's that obscenity on the back of the SWAT car, a woman standing in front of it with her hands in the air, blocking it from moving at all, and people just all around screaming and shouting at the police officers. That was probably the moment that's going to stick with me.
You saw folks spraying an obscenity on a police SWAT vehicle.
Wow. Yeah, people are really, I've said this a couple of times on air, but everyone's wearing these masks right now. I can't imagine, with all the cameras that everyone has at their devices, you know, that anyone would act the way that we've seen people act throughout the evening, just doing the most outlandish things you can think of. But everyone's got their faces covered. I mean, at least half, 50% of their face. So it's people are being very bold in what they're doing. People just literally smashing into windows in front of police and grabbing things out of them. It's incredible.
Wow, you mix anonymity along with the mob mentality that can come when folks get together for a common cause of doing some damage, and it can paint a recipe for disaster, a recipe for a mess, and that's certainly what we've seen. And you pointed out that there are hardly buildings in that core downtown area that haven't been damaged or suffered some damage because of this protest.
I think I could count on one hand the amount of buildings in, like you say, the core downtown area that are not spray painted, not broken into, no damage at all. I literally think there's less than 5 in the core downtown area. In some of these, as we were speaking, we were seeing this happen before our very eyes. And I mean, it's one of those things you just think, is anyone else seeing this? Is anyone else seeing what's going on right now? And certainly, I mean, at that point, there was just too many of them for police to arrest everyone. And you do have that mob mentality where people are like, well, they can't take us all down, and then it just takes one flashbang, one tear gas canister, and people really start running. But that's been the most effective thing I've seen. And up until the last hour, I had not seen police shooting their non-lethal weapons at them. I did have one pointed right at me. I didn't have our photographer with me. We certainly didn't have a light. So I think they might have mistaken me for a rioter or a protester, because we were getting pretty close to that line. So that's another moment I think I'll think about for the rest of my life, having that non-lethal rifle pointed right at me at point blank range. And I simply said to him, I'm like, hey, I'm with the press. Please, just tell me where to go. I'll get out of the way. And got out of the way in a hurry. I did.
Well, that's good that you identified yourself and made that clear. Now, you pointed out that you're not seeing any of the rioters in your area, but a lot of what you've been able to communicate to us is what you are hearing. Do you hear sounds that police are responding to other places, or sounds of activity elsewhere?
Just in the last second where you were saying that, I did hear more glass shatter off in the distance here, past the Monroe Center garage. But I mean, it's interesting. We're standing in the middle of a street. We're not on a sidewalk because the street's been blocked off by police as they've, moved their barricades throughout downtown. But I mean, I do have the IFB in right now, but you can hear shouting still in the distance. I don't want to call it before before this is truly the case, but this is the calmest that I've seen it as far as police now, even in front of this Michigan State Police cruiser, gathered around, seemingly kind of chit chat on the hood of this Michigan State Police cruiser, and behind me there's a gentleman just riding a bike. It does seem like within the last 20 to 30 minutes, maybe less than that, 15, things have really calmed down. I do still see some smoke off in the distance, and you can really, I mean, all throughout the night, there's been car horns honking and honking and honking. But things are really starting to, at least from this perspective, right where we are, have seemed to calm down. Whether that's the case a couple blocks away, it doesn't seem like it's very loud over there, but it does seem like things are starting to calm down a little bit.
Definitely not anything of an all clear at this point. Police still holding a posture, and there's clearly still plenty of activity going on in the city.
Yeah, we're just going to have to continue to watch it. I do see now a fire truck just went past here. You're going to miss it. Oh, there's another one. Going right there, right through that intersection, and now a Grand Rapids police cruiser behind it. I'm imagining, like you said, Leanne, this is still far from over, and there's another fire truck. But it does seem as though maybe things have dispersed from the core downtown area to maybe some of the outer lying areas. Maybe as people are starting to go home, they're bringing some of the protest and the riot to their neighborhoods, to their other places where they're going for the rest of the morning. But it does seem, at least for now, that things downtown have calmed down a bit. We'll have to see, though, if that remains the case or not. You can still see, like I say, a large presence of police on Fulton here, where we were initially staged earlier this evening. That presence has largely, stayed right here. They've had this barricade set for a few hours now, but you can see that they're working to make that presence felt here. And we'll just continue to walk down this way and now maybe get another look at some of their spray paint obscenities on, like I say, so many buildings. And we did highlight this earlier, but you can see now some of the employees, maybe ownership, now talking inside of this building after it had been broken into in multiple points right here, you can see. And then just take a look at this too. This stop sign, I'm not going to touch it, but just now set against the side of this building. It actually looks like there's blood on the side of that. But then as we walk down this street, you can see just so many broken windows on this building alone. Almost every other window or so was broken. And there's actually, take a look at this real quick. I'm not sure if this is the culprit, but there's a stop sign resting inside this building, inside quite a ways inside this building. So whether or not that was, I've seen many stop signs used as as those objects to break into these buildings. They use that the top of the stop sign and just smash into the buildings. And you can see what did the damage here was the base of one of those signs. If you take a look right into the entryway here, you can see they just hurled that straight through here. And then they must have jumped inside or did whatever they did as they continued down here. So we started part of our second part of this broadcast in one of these garages nearby where we were stationed from above, and we saw someone use a stop sign and just use it as a ramrod, just smash into this window, smash into this window, smash into this window. And they jumped inside pulled one of these TVs out. You can see one of those TVs is where they tried to pull it out. It's kind of hanging diagonally on the wall. That's not how it's supposed to be, obviously. But we did see someone actually use one of those stop signs. I have video of it posted to my Twitter. I was right above them. And he's like, "Are you going to stop me? Are you going to stop me? Well, then take the video." So he's just smashing his way into here. And they were pulling out TVs, anything they could grab, really. And continuing to walk down the street with these big TVs. And this is actually now over here, looks to be like an office building, but you can see that they did make it in here and stopped by for a visit at the vending machine, both of which have been broken into. You can see the shattered glass on the floor and the holes through the glass on both vending machines, where people broke in here and decided to loot a refreshment or two. And we've seen people with all sorts of, I don't want to call them souvenirs because that seems to be putting the situation lightly, but I've seen people walking around with all sorts of things that they took from downtown. I saw someone with the front end of a police shotgun that was completely burned. And you take this too, this gate arm of a parking garage lying here in the street. We've said this a few times, Leon, but I can only imagine how ginormous the cleaning effort is going to be throughout the entire city for the days to come. I mean, weeks to come, honestly. There's been so much destruction, so much damage done to so many. It's just so widespread, downtown Grand Rapids, how far the damage is. And I'm sure these business owners are gonna be feeling the sting as well. As we've said a few times throughout the broadcast, we're not only in the middle of a pandemic now where money is tight, and a lot of these restaurants, these local businesses and restaurants have had a hard time not being able to have people in their buildings, and now they're being broken into and their products are being stolen, and that's just another expense, I'm sure, that they are not hoping to have to deal with, but now they do for sure. And we're getting closer to downtown. That's the Grand Rapids Art Museum right there in the foreground in Rosa Parks Circle. We can see a few people now walking around to where we couldn't earlier, where we were at Fulton and Ionia. It does seem that people are, there are some people still in this area, but not as many as we had seen earlier. So hopefully people are getting the message that they should be going home and calming down, but we'll have to continue to see if that's the case or not, Leon.
Everybody epitomizing such strength and resilience during this time. Justin Kollar is talking to another family who sort of echoes those same sentiments. Justin, what are you hearing from them?
Well, actually, Donovan, we're inside Sundance Grill and Bar. We took you to the outside of this building maybe about 30 minutes ago, but the director of marketing approached us and said, "Hey, do you want to come inside and see some of the damage that the looters caused overnight?" And you can see it's bad enough they're dealing with the coronavirus pandemic. Check out our feet here. You see these signs that's asking to please practice social distancing. Amid all of that, it looks like Bloody Mary mix, some fruit, glass, everywhere in here. Now we are joined by the director of marketing. Sir, thank you so much for having us in here, and I'm sorry for what must have been a very rude awakening for you today.
Well, I think the one word that comes to mind is just devastating. You know, you wake up and all you can see on your Facebook feed and news feed and the TV stations is the devastation, and then you look a little further and there's more devastation in the downtown area. And you know, with COVID-19, this was one impact, and now this is a second impact that we have to try to recover from. So devastating, I guess, would be the word to explain it.
We talked about, you guys have been offering that takeout option during this difficult time to try to make some of the money that you would have had with the dine-in. Now, obviously not going to be able to offer that as employees, and the insurance claim, I'm sure it's going to be tied up for a little while, right?
Well, it's just, you know, curbside was just trying to get some revenue coming into the locations, and you know, you can't run a business at just curbside or takeout. You can't. You have to make sure that you have dine-in guests, and even when we were closed and not offering curbside, you know, we're in the offices trying to figure out, you know, how to survive like every other business out there. So, you know, something like this obviously doesn't help at all. And we want to be able to be there for the community, but more importantly, we want to be there for our employees. We employ a lot of West Michigan staff members and team members, and they need us, and the community needs us. And I think at this point, we may need the community more than ever.
I'll ask you one last question. You know, this started off as a peaceful, silent march protest throughout the streets of downtown Grand Rapids. It quickly turned into something much more devastating than that when we see these looters and everything go through here. Do you have any idea of exactly what was taken from this location, from this business, or is it really just this senseless destruction and mess?
Well, we've done some assessment so far, but we'll allow the police and obviously upper management to assess that. But obviously, there's a lot of glass broken. The kitchen was, obviously, they've gone back through the kitchen and other areas. But, you know, as long as nobody was hurt and we didn't have any staff members in to get hurt, obviously that's the top priority. But you know, things can be replaced in here, but people can't, and you know that. But we want to make sure that we assess the damage and we recover. And we get ready to reopen for the community as quickly as we can, because I think that's the biggest story, is that you have to recover, you have to rebuild, you have to move on. And I think West Michigan is all about that every single day.
Yeah, definitely a difficult time for these small business owners throughout downtown Grand Rapids, at restaurants too, not only hit hard by the coronavirus, but now by the looting and destruction that happened downtown last night. We're reporting live downtown Grand Rapids. I'm going to toss it back to you, Teresa and Donovan.
All right. Thank you very much, Justin. We know that the damage that you're seeing there was caused by all of the violence that unfolded throughout the night. Welcome back to Daybreak. If you're just joining us, we continue to cover the protests in downtown Grand Rapids that turned into riots, and now that effort has turned into cleanup.
It has, and we see a lot of people coming together to make a difference in this community. Justin, what are you seeing?
Yeah, Donovan, I mean, in this shot behind me, there's at least 6 people just kind of coming out of the woodwork, random people who are not affiliated with these businesses, just coming together to clean up the city streets. We spoke with a family, a father and daughter, who are doing the same thing, and it's just so encouraging to see kind of this phoenix rise out of downtown Grand Rapids, where you had just hours ago this same scene, absolutely raucous, where people were just throwing things through these buildings and just creating as much chaos and damage as they could. And now, just hours later, now that the sun has come up, people kind of rising up to help clean the streets after these riots and protests, where these people felt like that was the way they needed to react to have their voice properly heard. But now you have these people here who call Grand Rapids home, wanting to clean up the city to make sure that business can continue downtown, as we've started to see now a lot more cars driving through downtown this Sunday morning as people try to get back to normal, so people can hopefully maybe reopen these businesses when the time comes. But there's still a lot that needs to be done down here. As we were commenting earlier, this is Monroe Center behind us. Almost every single business, every single restaurant up and down this street is experiencing some sort of damage this morning, whether that's a storefront, broken glass, looting in some cases. It's really widespread, especially right down here near Rosa Parks Circle in Monroe Center Avenue. But as I say, it's so encouraging to see these people just taking the time out of their morning, gathering down here to do what they can to pick it up.
Justin, since you've been out there and you were seeing the violence as it was happening, and now you're seeing this new situation this morning, people who have decided to come downtown and either help clean up or just be downtown.
It is encouraging, because like I say, we were down here when night fell, when this was one of the situations at this right here where I felt the most unsafe last night. This is where police were really clashing with some of the protesters. Actually, just a couple feet away from us, right over here, was where the very first arrest was, where police actually shot paintballs and sandbags at a man who was being extremely aggressive towards the police. And now, as you say, just hours later, you have people gathering, just bringing their own equipment from home, buckets, shovels, to try to clean up the mess that was left behind from all of that destruction last night.
Well, it is so good to see a very stark difference in as opposed to what we saw last night. We see a lot more of resilience, a lot more of team building, and a lot more just love for our fellow neighbor. Justin, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Alrighty, Justin Kollar has also been following the major cleanup and the aftermath of a very interesting and dangerous night for a lot of people. He joins us now live from downtown.
Hey, good morning, Donovan. Yeah, there's been a ton of people up and down Monroe Center Street working to help clean up this situation. And we managed to bump into Senator Roger Victory. He represents the 30th District. He actually was down here last night when he heard that some Ottawa County crews were actually being sent to the area as well. We ran into some of those crews, some of the big armored SWAT vehicles. So when you came down here, sir, you were hearing some of the reports coming out of Grand Rapids. And tell me what you thought and then what you saw.
Well, I was very disturbed. We have the right to assemble. There's a freedom of speech. But as when the sun was going down and it was getting dark, that was no longer being demonstrated. And I was starting to see some of the worst of West Michigan. And I'm happy to report this morning, as we've been cleaning up on the streets here for the last half hour, picking up the glass, we're seeing some of the best West Michigan. So I'm hoping we're going to have the dialogue going forward, seeing some of the best. But we also need to make sure that we're having discussions that what happened last night does not occur. And, it was at work through mutual aid from our local law enforcement, which occurred last night. But, very shocking last night. I was concerned. I was receiving text messages and calls, what, where, how. And I said, well, one area what we can address is get this morning and put the positive, let's move forward, and then still there's going to be work to be done, because there's tensions in the community, there's tensions throughout the whole nation, but yet today we're taking a step forward for a better Grand Rapids.
Yeah, you mentioned that tension. A lot of people, obviously this started from the videos that were released in Minneapolis. Did you happen to see those videos, and if so, what was your initial response and thoughts after seeing that?
There again, that's where we see that. There's going to be continued investigations. Charges were brought forth, and that's where we have the court systems. We have a legal system set in Michigan, in our community here, and throughout the nation. And there's times for that to be exercised. And there also, I do believe, in the freedom of speech. We have had many demonstrations throughout our community in the last. There's a lot of things going on in the world today. There's a lot of things going on right here in our West Michigan community, and people have been vocalizing and speaking up to it. But it has not been broken windows. These are private businesses. These are people hard at work. Even the people who brought me this coffee this morning, they were busy trying to get their business open so that way they can survive. But how do they survive when we bring this forward? And then where's the confidence of our society when they see, is this the image of Grand Rapids? No, the image of Grand Rapids, what was presented last night, is not the true image. This morning, what we see out here is the image of the true Grand Rapids.
Certainly very encouraging to see our state lawmaker, Senator Roger Victory. Thank you for armed with a broom and dustpan and coffee in hand to help make sure that the work that does need to be done downtown Grand Rapids is done in earnest. We're reporting live downtown this morning. Justin Kollar, News 8.
Alrighty, Justin, thank you so much. Also downtown has been following the aftermath of the riots we've seen overnight. Justin, where are you? I believe in front of a comic book store. Is there any damage to that store?
Yeah, Donovan, we're still along Monroe Center Avenue, and this comic book store, Vault of Midnight, was hit particularly hard last night. I saw countless looters going in and out of this building, and you can see all the glass has been broken out of here. We actually have the owner inside, Curtis Sullivan. Curtis, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Tell me what that initial wake-up call was like when you found out that your store had been broken into.
It was surreal. I hadn't gone to sleep yet, and it was about 1:30 in the morning, and I got an email from a gentleman who saw our store on the news, being the windows getting smashed like a lot on the news. So that was a troubling email. Yeah, I haven't had that one before.
And now I can see a lot of the goods are still here inside the store, but I mean, personally, being across the street, I did see people running in and out with items.
Yeah.
I know you probably can't put a monetary estimate on that right now, but what does it look like as far as inventory goes and damage inside?
Yeah, ballpark, 10,000 plus. We won't know until we do a full inventory, which will be my day tomorrow. So that'll be a fun all hands on deck all day affair. Yeah. seeing what's here and what's still sellable. A lot of stuff that didn't get taken was destroyed. So, yeah.
And being a small business owner downtown Grand Rapids, I mean, you've got some of your crew here cleaning out the inside of your business, but just looking outside and seeing all of the community members kind of rising up, cleaning up. What does that do to you? Does that kind of stir some sort of like pride or emotion in there?
Oh, yeah, it's amazing. You know, we've always hoped that we would, we're part of the Grand Rapids community. Our business is based out of Ann Arbor originally, and we moved out here, 7 years ago. And, it's always been our hope and our goal to kind of become a part of the community. Everybody works here, obviously, as a Grand Rapids resident. So, to see everybody come out, man, it's unbelievable. Yeah, I was feeling pretty low this morning, but this has done a lot to boost my spirits for sure. Yeah,
it's too bad to have had a situation last night that was designed to be a peaceful protest, a silent march, quickly turn into something much more destructive. And of course, that the damage from that felt very hard here at Vault of Midnight, the comic book store right downtown Grand Rapids along Monroe Center Avenue. Is there anything else that maybe I didn't ask you, something you'd like to add, maybe a message for the people cleaning up down here real quick?
Oh, just like a big thank you, and community matters, and everybody out protesting and stuff, they've got a voice that needs to be heard, and let's all try to come together, and get to a better place, right?
Thank you. Yeah, Donovan, Teresa, back to you guys.
Justin,